and happy holidays. I don't celebrate the holidays. You know, one of the main things, and humanity's not that evolved intellectually, human beings are still extremely unevolved and intellectually superficial. Don't take that as an insult. But one of the main things that actually misapprehends them is that they will take things which are empirical and repeatable, compositional laws or belief systems, and use those as the supposition for the people that drew those laws up, that they are correct in the explanations thereof. And that's just palpably false. For example, Newton's four laws, while they are demonstrably accurate and they are used for computation of far-flung satellites, which are actually maneuvered via UHF and VHF for calculations for very precise orbitals and whatnot, does not mean that the four laws of Sir Isaac Newton were accurate in explanation. There are countless, and I've written articles on this, and so has Nikola Tesla, and not articles, but Tesla's commented. One of the people that actually tore them apart was Walter Russell. People don't understand is that accurate descriptions are in no way, shape, or form connected to the explanations thereof, which are usually given by those same people. There's one thing of absolute certainty, is that nature is incredibly simplex. However, variegation upon the simplex, not simple, but simplex laws, and they're not laws except for the nomenclature that humans are so deficient in using and referring to something as a law, is that while incredibly simplex, they are not simple. We have this notion that we have electricity, magnetism, dielectricity, and gravity, and we're actually trying to come up with a GUT, or Grand Unified Theory. We've come up with absurdities like weak and strong nuclear forces, electromagnetism, and gravity, trying to combine all these things into one simple thing, and they are fundamentally and always have been one simple thing. There's no such autonomous field modality called gravity. Gravity is nothing other than incoherent dielectric acceleration, or what the common human fool refers to as a magnetic attraction. The only distinction and differentiation thereof is one of attribution, of quality specifically. Since magnetism is coherent, it is therefore multiplicatively more powerful rather than incoherency. The only thing that actually defines a magnet, for example, in humanity, if you actually do a Google search or go to any of the largest manufacturers of magnets and go to their frequently asked page, is what is a magnet and how does it work, and they will tell you flat out that they don't know. I own every book ever written on the topic of magnetism, and all of them are complete absurdities and pontifications, and they will try to reify action at a distance, which is the one thing that physics, and of course therein lies the defect, one of many defects, is that since fields are not physical, they cannot reify interactions at a field level, because they will use one of several incoherent, anti-intellectual, stupefying absurdities, such as virtual particles. If you actually type in virtual particles on Google, you will actually see that these idiots, these supreme so-called and presumed idiots and masters of science and physics, believe that interactions at the field level, such as magnetism, are ultimately particles. They will call them virtual particles, even though those have never been the input or output of any experiment ever done. They will presume that Mother Nature is a crazy, cross-eyed hooker on crack, shooting heroin, that paradoxes and dualities exist in nature. And one thing to be certain of is that any intellectually evolved human being that understands the most fundamental natures of cosmic mechanics is that nature, at its most fundamental level, and even above that, does not, has never, and will never deal in paradoxes or dualities. Three of the most famous words, and of course much of quantum mechanics, by the way, quantum is a completely absurd term which has actually no basis in reality and refers to nothing. Any type of a science show that you watch today, the word quantum is used as a filler word, and here's the actual explanation of the word quantum for you. Anytime a scientist or some BS science fiction movie that you watch, they will use the word quantum as a placeholder in a sentence to describe something that which they have no understanding thereof. Back in the day when human beings didn't understand stuff that was going on in nature, we would say, well, leprechauns did it, or that was fairies or ghosts, or we'd actually come up with all sorts of insane hyperbolic BS as unevolved, anti-intellectual, pathetic creatures that human beings still are to explain the nature of cosmic mechanics. Quantum is another word for unicorn and leprechaun. Quantum, it is really funny if you actually have evolved sensibility and evolved intellect, and I know that sounds hyperbolic and egotistical, but I do have, is that if you actually listen to scientists talk about something, they'll say, well, this is a quantum effect, or this is quantum cascade, or it is a quantum so-and-so, it's a quantum. This is nothing other than a pathetic word to describe something that cannot be defined by them nor explained. Specifically, the reasoning for that is that fields are not particles, and they certainly are not waves, and nor are waves anything in and of themselves. They'll often actually refer to fields as wave interactions, or refer to one of four Maxwellian field equations, which have never defined a field, rather only field interactions in exposition as a resultant of a vector over a period of time with a known result. They can be quantified. The result is quantifiable so far as effect, like as measured in force, or joules, megawatts, or voltage, or amperage. Four Maxwellian field equations have never defined a field. But human beings in their intellectual inferiority will ascribe paradoxes and dualities to nature that cannot be ascribed thereto. Three of my most favorite words that I hear quite often, specifically since much of quantum mechanics and field theory by stupid human beings or intellectually unevolved human beings, which is 99.999% of them, is stuff like wave particle duality. If we actually examine that little phrase, which always occurs together in a three-word lump, wave particle duality, they'll talk about the double slit experiment and wave particle duality of light. All you have to do is just type in parentheses in a Google search, wave particle duality. Three of my favorite words because it's exactly like saying flying, levitating unicorns, or glowing leprechauns on magic carpets. You see, let's actually examine this thing, since wave particle duality is always a phrase applied to the paradoxical nature of light. But first start off by stating what I've already said and emphasize it emphatically, is that Mother Nature nor cosmic mechanics deals in paradoxes nor dualities. It's absolutely impossible. Nature has no paradoxes, and it has no dualities. The only paradoxes and dualities exist within the unevolved minds of pathetic, stupid human individuals, which is all of humanity, so don't take that personally. Wave particle duality, let's actually cross-examine that, since this is always used in reference to light itself, but human beings have absolutely no idea what light is. They don't. They have no idea what light is. Wave is not what something is, nor is it a principle, nor is it a noun. A wave is what something does. When people talk about waves, all you have to do to shut them the hell up is say a wave of what? Well, a wave is an electromagnetic wave of what? Well, electromagnetic waves. We're talking about light here. Transverse coaxial. Electromagnetic. Okay, a wave of what again? Well, these are electromagnetic waves. You see, you actually get into this self-negating paradox where we'll talk about EM waves. So, well, it's electrical and it's a wave. It's an electrical wave. A wave of what? A wave is not a thing. So the electricity doesn't exist unless it's waving. What is the electricity? It cannot be quantified. Well, sure, we can quantify electricity as joules or voltage. polarization, circular polarization, transverse. Yeah, no, we've still not defined what it is. By the way, electricity is phi times psi equals q in Planck of electrification. Electricity as an autonomous field modality doesn't exist either. Electricity is actually a hybrid of electricity and dielectricity. If you actually understand the coaxial nature of light, which is a longitudinal pulse perturbation dielectric, and a transverse electrical magnetic, we're actually talking about a trifold circuit that exists as a field perturbation which propagates. Doesn't move, but it's a rate of induction of the ether itself. It's like a disturbance in the water. The waves in the water don't actually move. Of course, we are talking about waves, but not waves themselves, but waves of water. And the water doesn't propagate in a linear fashion. One wave rises, which causes a disturbance of the next group of water, or hydrous oxide, however you specifically want to get, and we actually have a disturbance which actually goes like this, but waves don't propagate in a linear fashion. Neither does light move, but that's a matter for another discussion which I've delineated beforehand months ago in countless other videos. But let's get back again to the wave particle duality, as always in reference used by pseudo-science, i.e. current modern science in reference to light. So we've eliminated out waves, since waves are never a reference to anything specific but what something does. A wave is not a thing, but what something actually does. Light is certainly not a particle. The notion of a photon is an arbitrary concept with no basis in reality whatsoever. The notion of the photon came about by many misapprehensions and miscomprehensions of the nature of that coaxial, specifically the longitudinal pulse perturbation. E equals nu v, energy equals frequency times Planck's constant, where we actually have a higher frequency of light, for example. The notion that they're bigger photons. Actually, the more smaller, since we're talking about capacitance, the smaller the space, the higher the capacitance. The actual higher frequency, the more powerful the light is. It actually has a smaller spatial footprint along its transverse electrical magnetic. So the smaller the light is, both specifically and technically, the more powerful it is. And this, of course, is completely aligned with the fact that the smaller the space, the higher the capacitance. And, of course, science has never explained that. They've never explained how a much, much smaller spatial vector has a much, much higher capacitance. I can, and it's extremely logical and very easy if you actually understand what the hell light is. So we actually have wave, particle. We've eliminated out those two since light is not a wave, because a wave is not a thing, and it sure as hell is not a particle. If you think that light is a particle, you are as deluded and brainwashed and as much a pathetic atomist as the rest of modern physics. You see, physics by definition is about physical things, and herein lies the rub. We're talking about atomism. Atomism, of course, has no connection to field theory. No connection at all. Duality. Well, not only is light not a duality nor a paradox, but the very notion that humanity, i.e. the unevolved, unintelligent part, which is basically 100%, would think that Mother Nature or cosmic mechanics would deal cards paradoxically, or deal in dualities. See, a duality, by definition, is stating something that is misunderstood or misapprehended. Nothing in and of itself is ever a duality. If we actually dissect the word, both in connotation and denotation, there's nothing in Mother Nature nor in cosmic mechanics that can be or ever could be a duality. Well, it's both particle and wave at the same time. No, it's neither particle nor is it a wave, because a wave is not a thing and it sure as hell is not a particle. Humanity has never understood light. It's neither a particle nor is it a wave. Here you're talking about a duality of whether it's a particle or wave. It's kind of one and it's kind of the other. Therefore, it's both and neither. That is the most unevolved, unintelligent statement said by stupid human beings, and human beings are really, really goddamn stupid! Stupid! Extremely stupid creatures. So, my three favorite words that I see all the time, as always used in connection with the word light, is wave particle duality, because every time I hear that, my sphincter puckers, and at the same time I laugh my ass off, because humanity is so stupid. Now, before you call me an egotist, I would like you to think and pontificate upon those three words. Then you'd have to have a deeper understanding of field theory, but you'd also have to have a deeper comprehension of the nature of light. But the notion of saying that there's any sort of wave particle duality is both amusing, pathetic, disgusting, disturbing, and a gigantic gravestone marker upon the unintelligence of humanity. Light, is neither a wave, nor is it a particle, and it sure as hell is not a duality. Wave particle duality always is said in connection to light. This is how unevolved and unintelligent humanity remains regarding field theory. Very, very unevolved. Very unevolved. Lux e veritas. Thank you so much for watching. If you like these videos, you can always click the link below. I will get a full explanation of light in my future book, which I'm fully working on. And not an easy thing to describe or illuminate to people. Ha ha ha, joke intended. Thank you so much for watching, and happy holidays. Bye.